Thank you everyone for joining us for this week's ETRO U session on site signage. So Dara is going to take us through what the standards are for site signage. And the expectation here is that we get all of our sites looking exactly as marketing wants them to. This is a huge piece of our marketing. So that's the purpose of today's session. Dara, you have the floor.
Okay. So hi everyone. For those of you that I haven't quite met yet, my name's Dara and I'm the Brand and Communications Manager here at ETRO. And like Karina said, today we're going to talk about site signage. Okay, so the learning objectives. Here's what I'm hoping that you guys get out of today's session. Why site signage matters, to gain alignment on the expectations of the appearance of our sites, and we'll walk through where to find the process, the signage guidelines, and then the ETRO signage catalog as well. So why does it matter? It's not because Mike or Dan or Herb says it does. Our sites are a reflection of the ETRO brand, and in alignment with our corporate goals, we want the ETRO brand to be synonymous with quality and excellence. It's important how we represent ourselves to our current clients, our prospective clients, our trades, and the general public. And above all else, the appearance of each of our sites is a reflection of how the site is being managed. So it's all about optics. So the expectations. The highest level of appearance should be maintained at all times. The goal here is consistency across all of our sites, that every ETRO site maintains the same clean and professional appearance at all times. I'd like to stress that maintaining the appearance of your site and following the site signage guidelines is a responsibility of the project teams, and it should be treated with just as much importance and urgency as building the project. So where to find everything? So from the ETRO way, which I'll go there now. So from ETROnet, you can navigate to the ETRO way. You'd scroll down here, zoom in, and you're gonna find box E100 mobilize to site. So you would click here. It's going to take you to our wiki page, which has some other information about mobilizing to site, but you would scroll down to site signage, and here you'll find the process of what we should be following. And so the site signage plan is the responsibility of the project manager to create. I'll show a few examples. Oops. So here's a signage plan from Brightside that Brad created. I think the best way Brad has found out to create these site signage plans is to use the existing site logistics plan and then overlay a white box over that at a 60% opacity. The site signage legend is included in the site logistics plan template. And ideally on the site signage plan, you would include site photos for context, just so that we can get an idea. For example, on Brightside, they were placing the 2 ETRO illuminated signs on top of their trailers, and there was a concern about the trees along 12th potentially blocking the view from the street. But with those site photos, we were able to see, like, no, it would be below the canopy of the trees. So the site photos are important to include. The goal for the ETRO branding, the illuminated signs and the large ETRO signs, is to have as much exposure to the pedestrian and vehicle traffic as possible. So trying to figure out where that is on the site. So the signage plan is to be sent to marketing for approval. Once there's approval and some back and forth and we're all good with it, the signage plan would be sent back to the project team for implementation. I have one more example here as well. This one is from 837BD. You will note that all windows should be covered with the ETRO branded window paper. And also note that there's some projects that are going to require multiple signage plans based on the various stages of the project. So it's not like you do it prior to mobilization and you're done. It needs to be taken into consideration that the site sometimes will change throughout the course of the project. So is there any questions on creating the site signage plan so far? No? Okay. So the site signage guidelines themselves. So again, these can be found from that from the wiki page. And there's a set of guidelines, the process, the general requirements. I'm not going to go through everything, but I think all site teams or project teams should take the time to review this entire document and make sure that all of our sites are in compliance with this document. I do have a few examples that I wanted to run through. So let's see. Replacing or remediating all damaged scrim on a regular basis. So if it's damaged, it should be replaced. If it's tagged, I know teams have been using spray paint to cover the graffiti. If you have colored scrim, we would recommend working with your painting trade to get a color matched spray. Also, some good practice would be just to order some backup scrims to have those on hand when you need to replace the damaged scrim. And as a last resort, you could call a graffiti removal company if necessary. This next one is very important. Only ETRO approved signage is allowed. So no one should be creating their own signage. Everything should be ordered or created through marketing. So in the site signage catalog, the site signage catalog also can be accessed through the ETRO way. And in it, I think most of you kind of have hopefully gone through it. You have the ability to order any of the standard signage that exists. So there is we do have a catalog of all the standard signage. If there's something in there that does not exist that you do need, instead of creating it yourself, reach out to marketing and marketing will create it for you. So all standard signage should be printed on Coroplast. For temporary project-specific custom signage, we are creating an ETRO template that can be used to have some customization. All of these signs are to be printed on 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 paper, and they must be laminated. And again, only using the ETRO template. For example, I think for PCI, I think there's going to be like 200 signs needed for like fall protection throughout that project. Again, we're not going to order 200 Coroplast signs, so that would be one where we would create a custom sign, we'd print them on 8.5 by 11, we'd get them laminated, and we'd put them up on site. The next one, so ETRO window paper on all tenant improvement projects. However, not just throwing it up on the windows, making sure that the ETRO logo is always in the right orientation, that it's mounted and applied with clear or white tape, and everything is aligned and plumb as much as possible. So mounting for our signage. Please always use either clear, white, or double-sided tape, no colored tape, and that as much as possible that the tape is in behind the sign and we're not creating an outline around the sign. The next one, all exposed wood on temporary structures that's visible to the public must be painted either white or black. So here's an example where the ETRO illuminated sign, we would paint that structure so that it's not just the exposed wood. And then the next one, any illuminated ETRO signs, including on the crane, are to be lit every night of the year. I think we're going to work with the project teams to potentially use timers so that we can set it on a timer, and that based on the day of the year and the sunset and and everything, that the illuminated signs come on their own. And also holiday lights should be installed and lit every night of the year from November 1st to January 31st. So that was pretty quick. Does anybody have any feedback or questions or kind of comments on why potentially there would be barriers to adoption?
I just have a quick question. Has it been does any of these signs, especially the big aluminum sign, require like city's permit, or are these considered temporary and we don't need them?
Brad, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, you shouldn't need any sort of city permits for these. You're talking about the illuminated up on the cranes and up on the trailers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't needed any permits in the past.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Blair?
So what are we coding all of our labor to paint all of our deck, trim and the wood surrounds? Who are we billing that to? Is that UBC or is that just a cost we're going to eat?
Is Dan on the line, or Brad, you want to take it?
You can just talk to your PM in that scenario. We'll come up with something, but they'll come up with some sort of labor code, whether it's rough carpentry, whether it's fences and hoardings. Your PM will have it in their budget somewhere.
Okay, we'll get all the materials from CCEC, I guess.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Michael?
Part of the package that you have online there is skirting for all trailers, required on all trailers.
Not required on all trailers, so only those that are visible to the public. So if it's within the fence line and it's not visible to the public, then it doesn't need to be skirted. If, for example, the UBC one is visible to the public, so we would want that one skirted and painted.
Okay.
Anybody else? Oh, Jerome?
Hello. And this is kind of a future consideration, but we developed a toolkit for site logistics. So it's just like standardizes all of like, this is what a fence looks like. And similarly, we've kind of started, I think we need to kind of connect afterwards, but we can have all the site signage in there as well. And even like scaled to size and everything, just so that it's just people are selecting from that existing toolkit. That's pretty clean.
Perfect. Yeah.
We can chat afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Lloyd?
Well, holiday lighting, is that only for the crane or for all the trailer too?
For the crane, we haven't discussed lighting on the trailers, but for the crane, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Tony?
So any new signs that we want, we just reach out to you. A couple of little custom ones I want to get for like our garbage bin out here at YVR. You know, whether it's something that says ETRO garbage only, or the problem we got is we have lids out here on our bins, and then during the day we like to unlock the bins, and it tends to get filled up with everyone's garbage. So I want to get some sort of a sign that says ETRO. I don't think ETRO only is the right thing, but maybe ETRO garbage only, or ETRO building materials only, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if it doesn't exist in the site signage catalog right now, definitely reach out to marketing to have that created. We are going to do it doesn't exist right now, but we are going to create like a template that people can kind of fill in simple things like ETRO garbage only.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
So that's coming, and we'll send out a communication when that's available. In the meantime, until that comes, reach out to marketing and we'll create it for you.
Okay, thanks.
Blair?
We've been given a couple of templates where we can spray paint the E for ETRO. The cutouts that we can just tape onto something and lightly painted so that the ETRO E is on the object.
Can you give me an example of what in what instance you would want that for?
Well, you just put it on our garbage cans or, traffic cones, whatever. I'm just wondering if we can get a smaller one. We've got one that's probably 8 by 11 and one that's probably 5 by 6. And it would just be something where we can label stuff that we own or that, all branding is good branding as long as it's done nicely.
Yeah. I believe CCEC was working on some sort of stickering for ETRO, like owned things.
Yeah, these are just, they're little pieces of plastic that you can tape onto something and then quickly spray paint the void, which is the ETRO E.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe we can come up with a smaller one.
Smaller. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think those came
Yeah.
from our safety totes way back in the day. This
The-
goes back. This goes back 4 years.
Like the spray painted ones.
Yeah, or it's like a little template that you spray on.
Mm-hmm. We can talk about this kind of offline, but whether we want to continue with the spray painting or if we want to move towards kind of some sort of sticker format.
I think for the things Blair's talking about, Dara, I think the spray painting is fine, like to put on
Yeah.
the side of a garbage can or a ladder or, various things that we use on site. What you mentioned about Commerce Court and the sticker, that's for kind of assets that are a little bit larger value that we're kind of tracking where they're going from site to site, but Blair's are kind of more consumable type things. So I think that's fine.
Sure. Lucy?
My question is pertaining to client standards. Like in the situation with YVR, we're not allowed to have any branded signage up anywhere really. So in that case, would you still provide a template that maybe just doesn't have the ETRO logo on it, and we'd be using at least the fonts and the design of your template, or can we just create our own?
So I know that, yeah, YVR and potentially malls and stuff like that, there's different standards. And so within that site signage guidelines, it mentions kind of keeping marketing in the loop whenever there's discussions with the client around signage, just so that we're aware and we kind of comment where necessary. I believe even at YVR, like for site entrance, and we still use kind of our standard ETRO signs. So what other additional signage?
We do. My question is more to like any additional signage, like what Tony was kind of requesting. Would we be using something that would again have ETRO logo on it, or is that okay, or can we just create our own that adheres to like the font and the design of ETRO standard signage?
It would be an ETRO template which would have our ETRO logo. So if you look at our site signage, most of our signage has that kind of black box with the logo on the bottom, and then there would be kind of a blank area in the middle that would use our ETRO font that would be customizable for the team to kind of fill in whatever whatever you would want it to say.
Yeah, and you know what? Like Dara was saying, our site entrance, our site instructions, they all have our little logo on it, and every PCL has it. So everyone is labeling them. So no one's ever said anything to me here. But even on the fencing for PCL and all that, they have their logo on it. So I think we just stick to a standard template. I don't think anyone's going to say anything. And it's so small. Like I'm not talking about a big sign for the bin anyways, just a small one.
Jeff?
But better ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there going to be a standardized kind of format for any like hoarding tunnel or anything that would be over like a crash deck or whatever over top of sidewalks, basically that would map out kind of where signage would be, or if it's scrim, or if there's certain like lighting requirements and whatnot?
For the scrim, I think I'm not sure about like particularly like the hoarding tunnels. I know on 402 Pender, Brad again mocked up an elevation. He sent it over to me for approval. I think in that case it's hard to maybe come up with a standard. But again, like that would be the PM kind of mocking something up, running it by marketing, and then getting approval on that.
Okay, thanks.
Unless Brad and Dan, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think that's right. Like there's always going to be things that are project specific and customizable that are just difficult to kind of foresee what those look like. And I don't necessarily think all projects, every single hoarding tunnel is going to be the same due to different loading and proximity to people and streets and all that kind of stuff. So, and some of that might be like, I know at PCI, as soon as some of those things were erected, then we took some photos and we kind of mocked some things up in real time once we actually understood what it looked like, because it was difficult to kind of see ahead of time. And so we'll just have to do our best to see what those look like early on so that we get signage up kind of as soon as our site's set up. But then there's always going to be some tweaks that just need to be made to kind of represent the current site layout and conditions, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you.
Lloyd?
We're about to start a meeting. The site is surrounded with 3 buildings and a small little forest. Nobody can see it. There's no road, no public access besides a bunch of students. We mainly get marketing to attract students to come and join us. How far do you want to go with your signage? Because this is a CM job also, right? So we just have to pick and choose our battle, I guess.
Sorry,
Because we can't basically show anything.
Can you repeat a little bit of the last part?
There's no public access to our site. It's surrounded by 3 buildings, and on the other side, a bunch of trees. Nobody can see it. So
Yeah, and
how much
again,
effort
we
should
do want
spend
to
in
have
this?
some recognition on that site. There's going to be the scrim on the fencing. Like you said, we don't want to take it to a huge extent just because we're not going to have a ton of exposure to a lot of the public. But I still think it's important to have representation of our brand on the site. So again, we're going to have to look at some site photos for context and look at the site plan just to see, have a few well-placed ETRO signs on that site still.
Agreed.
And I think just from my perspective, regardless of signage, even if it's black, clean scrim with our signage and everything looks and appears from the, whatever, whether it's Dave Podker or a student walking by, it appears like we run a clean, tight site, right? The signage is one piece of what we're talking about here. Signage is a piece. It's really visibility to everyone that walks by our projects. When they look at it, it should look better than the one across the street. And that means it's tidy, it's got the correct signage, it doesn't have graffiti on it, and it looks like we care. Because if we care about that, the odds are we're going to care about what we're building on the inbound side versus not. So, having our logo plastered on every single panel is not important to me as much as it looks and appears clean. It doesn't look like we haven't thought about it.
Any other questions? So I have one last announcement. We are going to do a site spring cleaning. It's going to be on Friday, May 5th. So all teams are going to take that entire day and clean up their sites, get everything, review the site signage guidelines that are on the ETRO way, and make sure that all of our sites are in compliance, and just take that opportunity to kind of get our sites in order. I believe an invite will be sent out. I'm not sure from who yet, but that invite will get sent out.
So Dara, is everyone from the office coming out to help clean up the sites, or? Just joking.
The full team should participate.
Sorry, what was that, Dan?
No, I just said the full team should participate. And if you don't do it, then that site is disqualified from the golf tournament this year.
Perfect.
Blair?
Yeah, that'll be a BYOT, bring your own tongs event. What Slack channel will we put our pictures on if we've got our signage and we think it's looking stellar, where do you want us to post it?
Yeah, you can post it on Project Updates, the Project Updates channel.
Okay.
Get a little competition going. And again, so when you're doing that spring cleaning, if you guys need any signage, like if you need to order signage and it's not in the catalog, just make sure you're reaching out to me. Give me a little bit of time to get that together. And and then we'll get, we'll order everything through CCEC to get all that signage that you guys need to do the clean.
Okay, and one last question. Is there any problem with us, I guess, Mike and Dan, if we have a problem with high winds here, if we just put a little piece of plywood in behind the sign and paint the trim black, that way we can fasten it to the fence properly. I mean, we've had signs ripped right off of our fence panels. That won't be a problem, will it, as long as it looks good and it's square? Just so it's got a backing to the plastic sign.
Yep. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep, that's fine. Paint it black. And if you got black scrim, I would probably, well, yeah, paint both sides, I guess.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So many questions. This was great.
Yeah. And if you have more questions, just reach out after this.
Thank you, Dara. And so everybody knows, the latest on the ETRO way will be updated this afternoon. If what you're seeing doesn't match exactly what Dara said today, you'll look for it probably by 1 p.m. I'll make it a priority. We'll get that up right away so you can go in and start planning your spring cleaning.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.